4 years ago, Hurricane Maria forever changed the landscape of Puerto Rico. The massive storm made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane and devastated the island with torrential rain and 155-mile-per-hour winds. It was responsible for nearly 3,000 deaths and about $90 billion in damages. Despite the magnitude, federal aid has been slow to trickle in. For more on this, I want to bring in Arturo Massol-Deyá. He is a professor of microbial ecology and biology at the University of Puerto Rico. He's also executive director of Casa Pueblo de Adjuntas. Professor Massol-Deyá, thank you so much for joining us. So, according to FEMA, Congress has allocated at least $63 billion for disaster relief and recovery operations to Puerto Rico, but the territory has only received about $18 billion in aid. The Fiscal Oversight and Management Board overseeing Puerto Rico's finances says the remaining bulk of the reconstruction aid is scheduled to be dispersed after 2025. Why is it taking so long for these badly needed funds to get where they are needed?
I don't know where that money is. What we have seen in Puerto Rico is that that money has been used to contract U.S. companies that at the same time are subcontracting people in Puerto Rico. If you see the amount of houses that were damaged by the hurricane, just a tiny amount of those have been rebuilt. And if you think about Puerto Rico today, are we ready? Are we prepared? Are we in a better position 4 years after that money? And the answer is no. We're basically in the same position or even worse if you think about the electrical and the power authority situation. If you think about what Casa Pueblo, community engagement in Puerto Rico, have been doing ever since, in Adjuntas, for example, critical infrastructure, the fire station, the elderly home, the emergency unit, the elementary school, grocery stores everywhere around the urban areas. Over 100 homes have been solarized, have been energized with solar power. The 3 warehouses, the pharmacy. I mean, downtown Adjuntas, over 2,000 solar panels have been installed by community initiative without any single cent from federal funding or from local government. Adjuntas is in a better position 4 years after Hurricane Maria. The rest of Puerto Rico, with all of that money, I think we haven't moved forward, and Puerto Rico is far from being a better example on how to manage disaster recovery. This is very shameful, and the U.S. Congress, they have a strong responsibility of what is going on in Puerto Rico as well.
And so let me ask you, former mayor of San Juan, Carmen Cruz, was an outspoken critic of President Trump's handling of the storm's aftermath. And earlier this year, a U.S. Inspector General's report revealed his administration did delay more than $20 billion in hurricane relief to Puerto Rico. But what has been the response since the Biden administration has taken over? Has the island been getting any more traction, or are we in the same spot?
I don't know either. What I have seen is that the money that will be going to the power authority, the power authority has been privatized. They don't want to promote dispersed, distributed energy generation. So the money, even though Biden is talking about building green and being renewable resources, that's not the case in Puerto Rico. That money had been allocated for the same centralized system that failed to Puerto Rico, that is failing right now in private hands. And it's shameful again, because instead of investing directly to build resiliency, to help people confront poverty, for climate adaptation, they're using the money for the same thing in a way that indirect costs are taking a great part of that of those resources instead of being impacting the local communities and people. So maybe the money is going to the government, but at the community level, in different towns of Puerto Rico, we don't see anything happening. Nothing had happened, or just a little, just to give them some credit. But with the amount of resources and money that have been allocated, it is not happening. We're not moving forward 4 years, 4 years after Maria.
And additionally, Puerto Rico is facing a debt crisis and a COVID-19 surge. How is all of that impacting recovery efforts? And what do you believe needs to happen to move Puerto Rico forward?
And the earthquakes, the sickness that impacted Puerto Rico as well. What we have shown with the community engagement in Adjuntas and with Casa Pueblo is that building energy resiliency, clean energy source, energy generation at the rooftop, at the top of the buildings, is more stable, and it's good during regular days. It's good when hurricanes or storms are impacting Puerto Rico, but also for earthquakes management. But the money is not being used for that, and again. Much more needs to be done. What they have been is privatizing the power authority, which is going the wrong direction, the opposite direction. It's like perpetuating. What they are using the money is to perpetuate the same centralized energy generation that weakens when storms are confronted or with earthquakes, and that's not a good solution to help Puerto Rico. Much participation needs to be, engagement and accountability needs to take place for those resources to be used wisely for the well-being of the people of Puerto Rico. We are not better prepared. We are not an example of disaster recovery, and it is not Puerto Rico. It's the U.S. Congress, it's FEMA, and all the federal agencies are responsible for having this U.S. territory here and not managing correctly resources to help the local people.
Professor Arturo Massol-Deyá, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.